Ladies and gentlemen, here's Ronnie Vidin. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final show of the summer here on RVN. So glad you could be with us here this evening. Tonight is basically gonna, well, it is a wrap up of this summer. I mean, going into this summer, I was thinking, all sorts of things I was thinking of just because with everything that's happened, in the last year and a half of my life, I thought, well, maybe we'd do summer fun and games, maybe we'd still be able to broadcast, but you know what, we did that and even more. So I'm so happy that I was still able to do the things I love doing here on RVN with all of you. So yeah, that was definitely a nice little thing. Tonight, basically, like I said, it's just going to be a wrap up of the summer. Plus, I've got some news and other little tidbits and stuff like that to talk about here too as well. So that I haven't yet discussed here. Just kind of some old news and things like that. Because some of this is going to affect what's going on this fall, what I have planned this fall for the scheduling of all of our sporting events we do here. So, yeah, in fact, let's just get to all the news and things like that right now. So you can see I've got this green sheet of paper. Not white like I usually have, but green. Because a lot of this news I'm going to be sharing to you is about the Muskies and things like that. So, as was previously announced, here, in fact, it's going to be coming up in 2 weeks' time. Once again, we're hosting the Western Conference Shootout. We've hosted it the last 3 out of the last 4 years, I believe. Yes, because we did it last year, we're doing it this year, and we did it in 2022. So, yeah, that's where 6 of the 8 teams, they come down to Sioux City and they play round robin, basically, with all the other teams. So, Sioux City, they're going to have 3 matchups. Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, it'll be Fargo and Sioux City. In fact, here's the full schedule. So that's the only game taking place Thursday to kind of kick off the Western Conference Shootout. Friday, the schedule goes like this. Sioux Falls at Omaha at 1 p.m. Eastern, Tri-City at Fargo at 4 o'clock Eastern, and then Des Moines at Sioux City at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then same times, but the matchups are different for Saturday. We have Omaha versus Fargo, the first game, Des Moines at Tri-City, the second game, and then the final game, Sioux City and Sioux Falls. So yeah, although Sioux City, of course, will be the home team. Now, unfortunately, I will not be making the trip down to Sioux City just because, I'm busy with all kinds of other things. At least, in terms of getting settled into college and things like that, which I will be moving in tomorrow. I'll get to more about that later on here in our show. But another big piece of info is that we kind of have some names that are coming back. Big names, I will say. Bjorn Bronis, he's going to take over as the starter this year from Urban. And because, he was backup basically all of last year. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest name of the bunch. And then another big name is Kason Musket. Now, when the Muskies announced this, they gave him a nickname, the Ragin' Cajun, and I am a sucker for nicknames sometimes. I really am, I gotta say that. So I'll be using that one quite a bit, I'm sure. Because it fits him perfectly. I mean, he's from Louisiana, he likes to rage on the ice, which, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, so I think it's kind of fun sometimes. So, yeah, that's a perfect nickname for him. We know one of the Garys for sure will be back, Luke. So, yes, that's good. And then Dallas View. Those are the 4 we know for, absolute certainty that we know are coming back for next season. Now, we have acquired some new players, I guess you can say. Well, we've acquired one, and I think 2 of these were draft picks. So, yeah, they'll be making their debuts here 2 weeks from now in the preseason. William Tomka, we acquired him from Chicago. And then Elias Strom Vatny, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Of course, we'll get to learn all the pronunciations and things like that, but he'll be on this season. And then Lenny Geiger. Like I said, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name or not, but you know what? like I said, thank goodness the first game of the regular season for the Muskies is not at home. So, I don't have to basically make up pronunciations. It's actually going to start with the Fall Classic. But before we get to the Fall Classic, there's also two other preseason Musketeers games. There's going to be the Muskies. They will be in Omaha on September 10th. And then Tri-City will come to town on that Friday on the 12th. Wait, I think I said, yeah, it'll be Wednesday the 10th and Friday the 12th. Now, Friday, I think if they do the same thing like they did last year, that'll probably be that'll be like the season ticket holder meet and greet type of thing. So, yeah, so that'll probably be that game. I'm not for sure, though, obviously, because for one, I'm not going to be a season ticket holder. At least I don't think so, just because, I'll be up here and in college and stuff. So chances are I probably won't make it to every single home game, but like I said, I'll kind of get more into that a little. In fact, that'll probably be the next thing I talk about here. Well, no, probably not, actually. So, yeah, that's all in terms of news for the Muskies. Now, for the X's, we did make a trade. Well, we made some roster moves that included a trade. I'll say that. So, we acquired Tanaj Thomas from Milwaukee. He's a pitcher. And in exchange, we're giving Milwaukee future considerations. So that'll be interesting to see. So for now, we haven't given anybody up. So that is good. And we won't give anybody up, at least for the rest of the season. Those future considerations will, as far as, at least from what I understood, won't take place until next season. So, or, starting with this off season and then going into next season. That's at least what I understood from it. I know, I got this weird little clip of hair here. I don't know why, because it keeps blowing with the fan. Okay, there we go. So, anyway, so that happened, and then the X's did release Landon Barnes as well. He was our backup catcher for Curtis Byrne, when Curtis Byrne took over, of course, in early June, and of course, ever since we picked up Michael Quinones, he's made a big impression to this X's club. So, Landon Barnes, although he might be released from the roster, apparently, according to Danny Vaughn, he is going to stay with the team as the main bullpen catcher and bullpen coach, I think is even what he said. So, he's still going to be with this organization. He just won't be on a roster playing. So, yeah. He's not going anywhere yet. So, yeah. And Chase Jesse, he is now on the disabled list. I guess, according to Danny Vaughn, he said he was suffering from fatigue. So, yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing to, especially when we're 2 weeks away from the postseason, a little over 2 weeks away from the postseason. That's kind of an interesting thing. Less than 2 weeks, actually. So, yeah, I just found that a little bit interesting. But apparently he will be back within the next couple of days. So, that'll be good. And Danny Vaughn hinted that there might be some more moves for the X's, because the rosters freeze tomorrow. Like once tomorrow hits, well, after tonight, basically at midnight, the rosters are frozen. So, I mean, you could still move guys up from disabled to active or to, inactive, active, whatever. However, once, you can't make any moves, like you can't cut anybody, you can't trade, you can't do anything like that. So, yeah. If the X's want to get anything done, they only have probably a few hours to do it. So, yeah, and like I said, Danny Vaughn, he did hint at there being possibly more moves. But, as far as I can see, let me look at the roster here quick for the X's. Let's see, nothing new in terms of pitchers, nothing catchers, infield, outfield. Yeah, as far as I know, the roster looks completely, nothing's really changed about that, so that's good. So yeah, we'll find out if there will be more moves or what have you, I'm sure, within the next few hours or so. So, yeah. And then right now, the X's are actually playing. They're playing up here in Sioux Falls, believe it or not. So, yeah, and right now, Sioux City leads 6-2 in the top of the sixth. They were leading 6-1, but they must have yeah, Sioux Falls tackled on a run in the last inning. So, yeah. So we'll just have to see what happens, obviously. Um, so now we'll get to the full recap of this summer, as we're right on 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 o'clock here in the studio. So, boy, this summer has just been, you know, going into this summer, I'll just say this. I did not expect a whole lot of things that actually happened, to be quite honest with you. Mainly because, I thought it would just kind of be like another typical summer for me. We'd have summer fun and games. We'd be broadcasting the X's and things like that. And, we did all that, but I did a whole lot more than just that, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, I went up to my uncle and aunt's lake house. I mean, maybe one time maybe I would do that, but I went up there twice, and gosh, it was just, I mean, you saw the Ronnie show when we did that out there. I mean, that was just crazy out at Mantrap. I mean, that was probably the perfect setting and the perfect backdrop for, a YouTube video. And, I took full advantage of it while everyone else is basically working elsewhere. Because, as you know, they did end up buying a new lake house, which some people found out on here, which I'm not really too proud of, but you know what? They were going to find out sooner rather than later as far as I'm concerned, so there you go. But yeah, so they were working on that. Me and my grandma just kind of stood back and let them do their thing, and I went out into the back and filmed the video. I mean, it was perfect. It was peaceful out there. I mean, the background was awesome. In fact, it was funny editing the video and just going straight through footage. I mean, it was, and you could see kind of like the clouds moving and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. Almost kind of like a time lapse of some sort. So yeah, like I said, that was really cool. But yeah, so that was probably, well, and then my cousin got engaged, which I did not think was going to happen at all. Or at least I wasn't well, nobody was really expecting it, I don't think. But, he just kind of pulled the trigger and boom, it happened. So, yeah, those were probably the biggest things I did this summer. I did do some other things too, I did, worked on here, did summer fun and games, did some broadcasting, things like that. And so it was basically a normal summer for me, but, I had all the other things in between. In fact, before we go off, because as you know, this is going to be the last thing I do before probably September 3rd. So I just want to go back and, just kind of recap what the X's season has looked like, because that September 3rd, when we come back, that's going to be the first X's game of the postseason. So Wednesday night's Lincoln and Sioux City game, that'll be the last regular season X's game I'll broadcast, or anything I'll broadcast. So, just to recap some of the things they've accomplished. They've tied the lead record with 15 stolen bases in a game. Steve Montgomery got to 600 wins. We had the dancing umpire from the Savannah freaking Bananas throw out the first pitch at one of the games. That was just crazy. We broke the franchise record for stolen bases, and we broke the American Association record for stolen bases. So, yeah, that was really nice. And then, of course, Austin Davis got up to 50 stolen bases. That was a single season record. And then, of course, the one that just happened a couple of nights ago, Kyle Marmon, 133 strikeouts, which was the single season record. There we go. So, yeah, that was, we didn't really get to experience all of those records, but the fact that we were able to broadcast one of them, which was Kyle Marmon's the other night, that was good. That was good, especially, when I'm heading off here for a little while at least. I'm going to enjoy what college has, at least for me, for these next probably week and a half. Yeah, and then I'll be back on, obviously. So, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm still... And that's going to be the big thing here, previewing the fall, which I probably should do that right now. Or which I'll do right now, because I got nothing else to talk about. I'm still planning on, I'm still planning on trying to, do all the things that we do here now, broadcast, all these sporting events and do all these different things, like with the Ronnie Show, 12 days and things like that. Like, I still want to do all of those things. Granted, I'll be a lot more busier with college just because, I'll be doing different activities and clubs and things like that, obviously. So I won't have as much time to do, these things. I mean, granted, most of that is just, the easy part of it is just turning on my phone, titling and creating a stream, titling it, and just filming it and broadcasting. Like, that's the easy part. But, all the prep work and all the research I do, that takes, in some cases, just about as the same amount of time as a regular Gigantic the Series stream. 2.5, 3+ hours. So, well, for some things, I shouldn't say all, but for some things, like I said, it gets, like a lot of broadcasters, it gets easier once you see the same teams over and over and over and over again, which, granted, for me, with the Muskies, I mean, I'm lucky that, I only have to do research on, like, one single team, because I already know everything about the Muskies, so, I just have to, which is definitely helpful. But, when I'm broadcasting, these professional and college sports where I don't know anything about any of these teams, I mean, that definitely takes a lot more time to do. So, yeah, I don't know how much time of that I will have to, do those kinds of things because, I want to enjoy college. I want to get the full college experience. So, yeah, although I will say, at least, the good thing is that my grandma and my aunt said that, if I needed to use a studio or, if I wanted to keep doing broadcasting, I could be at either one of their houses, doing, at least at first. My goal is, we'll probably, because this probably wouldn't have been such a big issue had the X's been like a terrible team this year and they just sucked and we knew they weren't good. Basically, if they pulled a Lincoln. However, because they're in the playoffs, obviously, I want to be on, for that because they could make a deep playoff run all the way to the championship. So obviously, I want to be here for every single moment of that. So what that's going to require, of course, is, me, like a week and a half, that's when everything's going to start, I kind of labeled this week and a half that I won't be on the air as a hiatus, but kind of looking at it and how that term has been used in certain things, over the years and just in like pop culture and YouTubers taking hiatuses and stuff like that, it's a lot longer than just a week and a half, 2 weeks. Usually it's months or even years. Like One Direction, when they broke up, I mean, that was labeled a hiatus. However, it's been almost 10 years now, believe it or not. I mean, I still can't believe that it's been almost a decade that they haven't been making music because, I basically grew up with their music. I can remember when certain songs of theirs were released, and I can remember all the buzz that happened when Zayn left. It was announced that so yeah, and they still haven't gotten back together to make any new music. Granted, obviously Liam Payne passed away, God rest his soul, so that'll probably make things even harder, but one day they'll get back together. Okay, that I just got way off topic there, but that was just an example. They labeled them breaking up as a hiatus, and that's lasted for quite a while now. And I feel like when people say, and that was just one specific example. But just like in general, when people have said, oh, I'm taking a hiatus from this or that, the other thing, it's usually more than just 2 weeks. Like I have planned here, once, obviously I get moved in and settled and classes start and things like that. All of that, basically. To sum it all up, I still want to be doing everything that I'm doing on here now still. But, you know, I'll obviously have college. And bottom line is that I'm not going to label it as a hiatus anymore. I'm just going to label it as a short little break before I come back on for the X's postseason and, you know, things like that. So, yes, I'll be taking a short break, then I'll be back on for the postseason. And the thing that I like about covering all these Sioux City sports teams is that it's kind of like one season starts during another season, and when there's like an off break, you know, it's before I started broadcasting the X's and the Bandits as well. Don't get me wrong, I was following them. You know, I've been following both of these teams just as passionately as the Muskies. You know, for all these years. However, I was never broadcasting them, and I just thought time went so slow in between Muskie seasons because it could be, you know, 4 to 5 months, you know, obviously in between seasons. And you know, for a TV show, fine, but to me, for someone who's as passionate about, you know, a sports team as I am, like the Muskies, you know, it just felt really long. So that's why I kind of started covering the X's and the Bandits on here too, because, you know, when the X's season ends, when the Muskie season ends, depending on where it ends, you know, it kind of feeds into the Bandits, and then when the Bandits are done, it kind of feeds into the X's, and then when the X's are done, it kind of feeds into the Muskies. So, you know, you get Sioux City sports year round, so that's a really good thing. The one thing I've really liked about covering every single Sioux City sports team is that, you know, one season kind of feeds into another, basically. So, and ever since I've started doing that, you know, even though I've only done it for this is only my 3rd year of doing those things, you know, the time has felt a little bit faster, I'm not going to lie. So, yeah, that's been the really good thing about, you know, covering all those different sports and things like that. You know, it doesn't feel as long. Like, I mean, I can remember just yesterday when the Muskies were were knocked out, you know, it felt like it was just yesterday. And now they're going to be starting here in 2 weeks, so, at least with preseason. So, yeah, I mean, time's just gone by, like, that quick. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, I do have, like I said, a little bit of a rough draft broadcasting schedule for starting this fall when I come back, and, you know, just kind of, you know, just like a regular year, except for it's not going to be like a regular year, you know, obviously, like I said, and I've stressed this enough already, you know, obviously I'll be in college, so I probably won't have as much time as normally I would, but, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. I really don't. So, I'm going to take advantage for sure of, you know, what I can do and what I basically can't do. So, yeah, although I will say, when I come back, that first week, it's going to be pretty busy. Like I said, with the X's postseason. So, I'll come back that Wednesday night. That'll be September 3rd. It'll be the X's first game. We don't know who their opponent's going to be yet because they're going to choose that first opponent. So we'll just kind of, play it by ear, obviously. We'll know Labor Day night who they're going to play. And I have it scheduled for 8 o'clock Eastern time, but most teams, I'd say, out of the 12 teams in the American Association, I'd say probably about half of those teams, or between half and 3/4 of those teams, start at 7:30 Eastern time. So it'll either be 7:30 or 8 o'clock Eastern time when I be on. And you also have to remember too, I'm going to be rebranding this channel. So Tuesday night I'm going to do, okay, it's fine. I'm good. As I was going to say, I'm going to be rebranding. So I think what we'll do is that Wednesday night, before we come on with that stream, that's when the rebrand will take effect. Because I want to do like a new introduction video to my YouTube channel. Because if you've seen the one I got now, with me with that crazy smiling filter, it just, that just looks unprofessional. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna redo that. Basically the same script, but it'll kind of just be different, obviously, because we're changing. I'm getting a new logo, kind of a new formula in terms of, well, if you've seen my summer preview, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, I'll pull it up now and I'll just kind of talk about, because we're going to be going back to a specific era in television for the rebrand. At least that's how it'll be inspired by. Just some clues about it once again. It'll remind you of one network during the late 90s and early 2000s. Around this time, this network hit it big with one show, and it involves two colors, which I'm going to give the answers to those questions. Like, I want to do like an introductory video, and then, well, I don't know if I'll have it in that introduction, but I wanted to make an introductory video and then a separate video just kind of talking about the rebrand and, what's going to be different, if there is going to be anything different, and things like that. So, yeah, I might have to do those over the Labor Day weekend just because, because I wanted to do those this summer before I went to college, so I wouldn't have to worry about that, but it's okay. I've looked at kind of all the activities and stuff going on during the first week, and I don't think I have any classes, at least on like Monday or Tuesday, as far as I know. In fact, I don't know officially when classes start for me. I move in just over 12 hours, and I still don't know when classes start for me. So, yeah, obviously we'll find out tomorrow, and then that'll kind of reflect some of the scheduling too as well. What I do in terms of production for those videos and just kind of rebranding it. So, yeah, so what'll probably end up happening is that first night when we come back on, it'll start with, the rebranding will take effect at like a specific time, and then 1 minute later, the introductory video, when you click on my channel, and that's the first thing you'll see, that'll go out, and then directly after that will be the video just kind of explaining the rebrand and things like that. And then it'll lead straight into the stream, basically. In fact, I might even include those all in one stream, like be on, say, maybe 15-20 minutes earlier than I have scheduled for right now, and then just kind of talk about that, so I don't have to make, a separate video about that, and I won't have to, take as much time to do. Although, like I said, I don't know how I'm going to do the whole rebrand thing yet. I mean, that format, what I just told you, we're going to keep that. It's just what am I going to do about that format? Is it going to be 2 videos or just, a part in a live stream? That's the one thing I want to figure out. Although more people, I will say this, more people do watch my YouTube videos than they do the live streams. So, it'll probably be its own separate video as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. And so, yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, I do have a schedule. I did kind of go through last night, and because if you remember in the fall presentation, or in the summer update video, I have never done a fall presentation before in my life, but if you can remember, it was in late May when I did my summer preview, once, like the NFL schedule's released, and like when the first few weeks of the college football season, when those games were scheduled and released, I kind of did part of that video was just kind of going through all the games that I will probably end up calling. I don't know yet, obviously. So I kind of went back to that and kind of revised it just based on, certain things that will happen over these next few weeks, over my first few weeks in college, and just kind of in the future. And I kind of came up with a rough scheduling, because this will be our fourth. Is this going to be our fourth? Yeah, it'll be our 4th season of Gigantic the series. Although, I think I'm probably going to do what I did with the Ronnie show and not have like any seasons. Although I have reverted back to that format for the Ronnie show. I think just because with Gigantic the series, the way I have it now, I don't obviously I don't label it as season 4, episode 28, and then this gigantic whatever day it is, and then the sports matchup. So I think I'm just gonna cut that out instead. I mean, I'll still have the period between September and August, but that'll be just to compare like ratings and things like that. So yeah, that'll probably be what I end up doing. Now I'm not gonna share the full schedule, but at least from when I come back on September 3rd all the way through until April 12th, which will be the last day of the NBA season, regular season, it's 98, I think it's 98 broadcasts I have scheduled with, like I said, of course a majority of that will be Musketeers games, but, we're still going to do the Saturday night ABC Bass NBA games and, whatever hockey games they have during the day, because even while I am in college and, I'll be I'll have more of a social life, obviously, and, which would be fine, but, I think if we can keep that Friday off like we did with, while I was in high school and we went out to that one restaurant, I mean, if we can do, like, the Friday recaps still, if we can, like, keep those, and, so then Friday night, if I want to go out with friends and hang out and things like that, I at least have one day in the weekend to do that, so, while still basically having the other two with this channel, which is, I think, fair in my opinion. So yeah, that'll probably be what'll end up happening. Of course, for special events, I'll be on for Friday night. Like, I think I'm going to do both the Winter Classic and the Stadium Series for the NHL, first time ever, and I think the Winter Classic is on a Friday night, and I also had planned, there's another big bowl game in college football that Friday night too as well on January 2nd that I'm planning on calling, but, like I said, because that'll be during Christmas break, and everybody will be back in their homes and doing whatever, so, yeah, I think we'll be pretty safe there, but just with, like, all the other nights and things like that, so, yeah, I still want to keep the regular schedule, but, of course, I'm not going to be as strict about it just because I'll be in college, like I have been in years past, so, yeah, that's kind of the bottom line. So yeah, I'm not going to do a full fall preview video like I did with the summer. I mean, I just kind of did that already, so I'm not even going to worry about doing that anytime, really. So yeah, especially, hey, I do a fall preview and then, oh, you don't hear from me for 2 weeks, basically. So, yeah, I'm just not even going to take my time. Plus, time's basically run out for me to do that, so... Yeah, I think that's all in terms of what I wanted to talk about here. It's just kind of to wrap things up. I mean, it has just been it's been a summer that I did not see coming. I really did not. Obviously, because, of certain events that have happened in my life over the past year and a half. And if you've been following me, then you know what's all kind of been going on. But now it's actually almost been 2 years. So yeah, the past, really year and a half, 2 years of my life, it's kind of been a little nuts. I'll just say that. I think that's kind of an understatement, obviously, but, yeah, I think, but, just excluding all of that, just moving up here from Sioux City to Sioux Falls, I mean, now, number one, I'm, like, way closer with a lot of my family, which I did not expect would ever happen, because, before I moved up here for the summer, the only times, I would, and I'm talking about, like, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my grandma and grandpa, well, not anymore, grandpa, but, the only times I would ever see them would be when, we'd come up for the holidays and things like that, obviously, and then usually every single year from when I was as far back as I can remember, up until, 2019, the year before COVID, I would spend usually a week or a week and a half up here. And I know I've said this many times, but, it is true. I mean, I don't think I've ever spent as much time with all these people in my family in you know, and like this whole summer I've spent probably more time with them than I have any other year. So, but yeah, you know, I'd come up here, like I said, right before COVID hit. I mean, I'd maybe spend a week and a half up here over the summer, and you know, just kind of hanging out with my grandma and grandpa, and you know, whatever uncles and aunts were around. Which to be quite honest with you, and it's the reason why me and one of my cousins got especially close, um, was because, as you know, I have my Uncle Greg, my Aunt JJ, and their three kids, and then my Uncle Eric and my Uncle Aunt and their two kids. However, when I would come up for that week or week and a half, it would always seem like Uncle Greg and Aunt JJ and their family, they would either be on vacation somewhere, or their schedules were just so busy that, you know, I basically, the only times I really did ever see them were like on those holidays, or things like if we had to make special trips for like funerals or, you know, weddings or things like that, you know. And my Uncle Eric and my Aunt JJ and their two kids, I mean, they would be around, but you know, my cousin Carson, you know, he played baseball, so you know, I mean, but like I said, I'd still see them, you know, if not every day, like maybe every other day. So that was, but the fact, you know, like I said, just to kind of sum it all up, you know, I did not think I'd be seeing them as much as I have this summer, basically. So that's kind of been the unique thing about all of this, you know, is that I've kind of gotten closer and closer with well, basically my extended family. I think that would be fair to say, you know, because, you know, you've got my mom and my dad, you know, and of course me and my sister, you know, that's all one family. And then, you know, I kind of feel like my uncles and aunts and my cousins, they're like extended family, you know. I think that's what I think of when I think of the term extended family, is that right there. So, yeah, so the fact that, you know, I basically, you know, like I said, gotten to spend more time with them than just like those holidays or these times I'd be up for a week and a half, or, you know, those special times where we'd be up here for special occasions and stuff. The fact that, you know, I've basically gotten to spend the whole summer with them. Well, basically mid-February till now with them. I mean, it's just, I've loved it. I've loved every second of it. I gotta be honest with you. And especially in my case, you know, I always cherish those moments just because, and I've especially learned this the hard way, but it can all be taken away like that. Within 1 second, it can all be gone. And so that's why I've loved doing these family things, you know, because within a minute, you know, I might not be able to see them ever again. You know, that's basically what the case was with my parents and then my grandpa who passed away. You know, it was just, you know, 1 minute they're alive and they're here, and then next minute they're gone. And, you know, it really sucks the way that happens. But, you know, just this summer when I've been spending time with them and, you know, hanging out with them, you know, I cherish those things. You know, I really do. You know, I feel honored that I get to do those things because, you know, like I said, it can all be gone like that. So that's really been my favorite part of this summer. Really, it has been. So, yeah, and I'm hoping I get to do more of these things because, you know, especially because, well, all of my cousins, basically, my Uncle Greg and my Aunt JJ, their three kids, they all play tennis. So, you know, I've gotten to go to a lot of their matches this summer. And my grandma's like, well, Ronnie, you don't have to go to them if you don't want to. I'm like, yes, that's true. However, you know, they've supported me this past year and a half. I mean, especially my uncle and my aunts. I mean, because, you know, they've been able to, you know, take time out of their schedules to do things for us. Well, for me, and then when my mom was still alive after my dad died. And, you know, the fact that they were able to do that, I mean, was just incredible. I mean, but now especially, like I said, the reason why I've, gone to all these events and, gone up with them to the lake, twice and, things like that is because, quite simply, they've supported me this past year and a half, and, oh gosh, I want to give that back to them, And I just think that's really special. I just got done crying a whole lot on that last video. Obviously, the final show in my studio, and that last 15 minutes was just me going, but, that was the final time I'll be in my childhood house. So, I mean, I think you can understand that. I really think you could. And I think it's already, viewership-wise, it's done quite well. One of my better videos, I think, statistically at least. Yeah. Well, it's got 5 views, but, take time, and I'm sure by the end of next week it'll have maybe 40 or 50. Although it is a 55-minute video, so, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, but we will see. But yeah, I'm just... Over this last year and a half, I've just been so grateful for that I have such a tremendous support system. I mean, I've got my family, I have, well, even though I'm not nowhere near them anymore, but like all my friends I went to school with and things like that, there's still a few that check in on me almost, well, not quite every day, but, every once in a while, they'll all kind of check in on me and see how I'm doing, so that's good. That, obviously they haven't forgotten about me, so, I mean, that's good. That's definitely a good thing, so, yeah, I've just been so lucky that this summer I've been able to do the amount of stuff that I've been able to do. That's basically why we're here, to celebrate that, so... Yeah, because as you know, I'll be taking this next week and a half off to just get settled in with college. And then I'll be back with the X's postseason. So yeah, let's see, how are they doing now? 7-2, they're in the lead right now at the bottom of the 7th. So this was going to be a tough series against Sioux Falls, but they're doing pretty good right now. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of weird how the schedule works because they have 2 games up here tonight and tomorrow night. But then they go back to Sioux City Sunday. They have the day off of Monday, and then they have 3 games. Sioux Falls will be in Sioux City. So it's just kind of weird how that schedule works. But yeah, so I think just to sum things up before, I go off here, I have just been truly lucky to have the support of everybody here in this family, to all of you who have watched, and, to still be able to do the things that, I love doing around here. Up at 7-3. Great. Just great. But, yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's 7-3 right now. And Tanaj Thomas just got put in relief. So, as you know, we were just talking about that a little while ago. So, there was that. I think he just gave up a... Oh, he just gave up a double. But, yeah, back to what I was saying. I'm just extremely lucky that, I've gotten to do all these things that we typically would do during the summer, because, I thought, well, last year was already kind of tough and different, but this year especially, with me basically moving houses, I mean, I did not think I would do even half of these things that I've been able to do this summer, but, thank God I have, and thank goodness, my family has supported me. And, obviously with these sports broadcasts, obviously, I've kind of had to, kind of block all that out. But, yeah, I'm just, like I said, I've just been so happy and so glad that I've gotten to spend more time with my family this summer and doing all the activities and all kinds of other things I've been able to do this summer with them, Because, like I said, before this year, the only time I ever really got to spend time with them was during holidays, and when I would come up here for a week and a half-ish. So yeah, I'm just so lucky. And throughout, at least for now, for the future, I'm still going to support, I still hope they'll support me, and I'll be able to support them, and it'll just be great. It'll just be great. There are, obviously, as you know, I have big plans for the future, with this channel, kind of with other things as well. I mean, it's kind of funny. I think I've been preparing more for after college than I have for, like, actual college, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, because obviously I want to turn this channel into basically a full-fledged TV network, so, but we'd still get to do, you'd still get to see me, because the channel would still be named after me, so, obviously, if you've seen my network presentation, then all this is going to sound redundant, but, oh no, the X has just loaded the bases, dang it, ugh. But anyway, as I was saying, like I said, I have big plans for this channel here within the next 10 to 15 years. Hopefully, if YouTube's still around, at least I hope. My goal is, when I graduate from college in 4 years, we're talking about 2029 at this point. I'm hoping by about 2039 to 2040-ish, 15 years down the road, I'm really hoping that, obviously, things are going to be drastically different than they are now, obviously. But I'm kind of hoping, maybe 5-10 years in the workforce, doing, broadcasting games and things like that, I'm hoping by the time, like I said, around 2039, 2040, when I'm in the workforce for about 10 years or so, I'm just really hoping that I will be able to do this as a living, do this YouTube channel as a living, because I gotta be honest, ever since I really started doing all those game shows 5 years ago during COVID, and when I started growing my portfolio of all the sports and all the leagues I've been broadcasting, that's because initially when I started out this YouTube channel, it was just a hobby. It truly was, but within the last 3 or 4 years, I really have treated this as, like, my part-time job. So, and it seems kind of crazy to do, considering I'm not getting paid for it or anything like that. But, I just really love doing this. I really do. So, I mean, I'm really hoping that, 15 years down the line, I will be able to, do this for a living, basically. So, yeah, that's kind of like the number one goal. But for right now, I'm just focused on the present, We'll worry about all those big plans in the future, a little bit later. Because like I said, once I graduate college, I mean, I'm going to try and go through with all these big plans I have. So, yeah. So, tomorrow, like I said, to wrap this up for tonight, I move in, and yeah, which is kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, to be quite honest with you, obviously. Oh no, it's 7-4 now. Are you serious, X's? Come on. But anyway, yeah, I still will be doing these broadcasts and things like that, but there won't be as many. Just, because I'll be busy doing college things. So, yeah. Plus, I've been presented with some really great opportunities to broadcast things for, like, my school and some things locally here in town. So, yeah, obviously that'll cut back on how many things I do for this YouTube channel. So, yeah. But I'm just going to enjoy, I'm just going to enjoy it. I really am, to kind of wrap this whole thing up. So, yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us here tonight. I just thought I'd come on just to, kind of wrap up the summer here on RVN. I've never really done anything like this ever. But, I'm, I'm basically heading into a brand new life. So, I mean, I thought I'd, just kind of do one last little hoorah before I head off. So, yeah, next time, like I said, next time I'll see you again will be September 3rd. When the X's are in the postseason. So yeah, because that'll be their very first game. Hopefully it is with with the way they're playing now. I mean, it kind of worries me, but basically having a heart attack every single night because they were down last night to the worst team in the whole entire league, obviously in Lincoln. I mean, if you've been following along, you'll know that, obviously, but and then they came back and won, and it was just like, oh my god. It's kind of I don't know. It really grinds my gears. And, well, a lot of things really do here. I mean, if you've watched a lot of my broadcasting these last couple of years with the Muskies and things like that, you obviously know that, I get mad at a lot of things. So, no, I meant that as a joke. Like I was just saying, just with the way the Explorers are playing and things like that, my heart starts racing a lot, basically. So, yeah, that was what I meant by that. So, sorry for the confusion. But, yeah, so I don't know what's in store for me, or what's in store for the X's, but, yeah, I'm like I said, and I've already said this multiple times over these last 50 plus minutes, but, if we can balance school and this YouTube channel out to where, I can still do the things I love doing, then we're going to be in good shape. I have a feeling that, this upcoming season and this upcoming year when we celebrate my 10th year of making YouTube videos, I mean, I think we're really going to, it's really going to be good. So, yeah, because I've already started planning out next year for the 10th year, different specials and things like that, and so yeah, we have certain specials coming up for the 10th year next year. So yeah, we're doing like a full, well, June 13th 2026, there, I'll say that June 13th 2026, since that's my 10th year, my 10-year YouTube anniversary, we're going to do a big extravaganza for that, so make sure you join us for that. To answer his question, I don't really play video games. I gotta be honest with you. I never was a gamer, to be quite honest with you. So I don't really have a favorite video game. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I've kind of hinted at certain specials we'll be doing next year, but that'll probably be the big one. Because I got inspiration from ABC when they had their 50th year television special back in 2003. I really got inspiration from that, because I was already going to do something for the 10th year. I mean, I already was going to, but, that, I think, really gave me some good ideas for what we can do for the 10th anniversary of this channel, because it's a big milestone. It really is. I mean, I'm surprised it's been almost 10 years, because I can remember when I filmed my first YouTube video. Because it feels like yesterday. It really does, because, I've been having so much fun doing this, so, yeah. Anyway, I kind of rambled on for a little too long there, but, yeah. To sum things up for the final time, before I head off on my short little break I've got here, this upcoming season, in terms of, the Muskies and all the other sports and things like that, I broadcast. It probably won't be as often, but, I'm still going to try and keep up with all these broadcasts and with college and, trying to balance all that out. So, yeah. That's basically it. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, next time I see you, it'll be September 3rd for the X's first postseason game, and, of course, that'll be the day when I rebrand this channel as well. So, yeah, September 3rd, right here on RVN. Join us for that, because it's going to be great. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in a week and a half, basically, when that is. Bye-bye. Yeah.